today we are joined to be sitting here with our sister, Veronica Cresto. Veronica is the creator of and the founder of the Diamond Process, using everyday triggers to awaken the treasure within, a 7-step transformational system that has been serving thousands of clients and students worldwide. You can read more about Veronica on this page. She's got a booming YouTube channel, and she's been at service for a long time. Welcome, love.
Thank you. I love how you flow with the introduction. My goodness, I'm so honored to be here with all of you.
Welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
Bright light.
Such a bright light.
All right, we're going to start. We're going to start with our overall general opening question. But we want to know, what does iconic leadership mean to you, and who is an iconic leader that you look up to?
Ooh, powerful question. An iconic leader to me is somebody who is sourced from their own sovereignty, from their own intuition, their own inspiration, rather than looking outward and mimicking what's out there. I would say an iconic leader, I mean, I'm looking at 2 of them right now, but I would say an iconic leader for me is somebody like Leonard Jacobson. I mean, there's so many different flavors. Leonard Jacobson is a spiritual teacher who's giving a powerful offering transformation in regards to awakening into presence. And everything that he brings forward comes from his own experience and genuinely something that is serving the world, rather than looking at what fits into society at this time, looking at what will make the biggest impact.
So, yeah, can you get more specific as to Leonard's approach that makes him so authentic, so unique, and inspiring to you?
Yeah, I mean, this is a spiritual teacher who, in the spiritual world, most people are like love and light, which he absolutely is. But one of his mantras is the FU meditation. One of his meditations is like the FU meditation. His whole thing is about unleashing your anger, like really having a good relationship with anger and rage, like letting it out. Because anxiety and depression is rampant in our culture today. And the majority of the reason for that, like, we can't talk ourselves out of that. It really is about releasing the emotions that have been stored up inside. So he's unapologetic about befriending parts of ourselves, which has had a huge influence on me and my work, befriending parts of ourselves so that we can show up as the powerful, iconic leaders we were born to be. So, I mean, we go in his retreat, for example, I mean, you see the most unbelievable unleashing of energy, raw power, what people would deem as crazy or unlovable. And he creates a sacred space where we all, it's allowed, and people leave like free as a bird and ready to do what they're here to do.
That's truly harnessing the fire within. That fuel, that rage, the anger, is what catapults us into transformation. There's no question. So that's so refreshing to hear that teachers out there that are bringing the whole inclusiveness of awakening and presence into the conversation. That's great.
Yeah, I love how you're talking about that fire too, because so many people, like, rage and anger, just since we're on this topic, in Chinese medicine is directly associated with financial wealth. So many people are stunted financially because it's like we're stunting our anger and rage, thinking it's bad or wrong, or it makes me a bad person if I have these feelings. But when it's expressed in a proper way, it just kind of cleans the channel for us to not only deliver our messages really powerfully, but actually to be able to hold and receive more and more wealth. It's an interesting thing to explore in my own life, that correlation, and then find out in Chinese medicine there's evidence for that.
Oh, I love that.
I'm
Just
curious, since you've been watching him do this work, and I'm sure it's incorporated into your work, have you ever been met by someone who says, I don't have anger?
Oh, yeah.
What do you do with that?
So I come across that a lot in my work as well. What he has taught me is to never have somebody dig to look for the anger or to dig and look for the pain. But when we focus on presence, when we focus on being in the present moment, we're not so lost in thinking. And so inevitably the stored emotions in our body has to come out, right? Because our body keeps the score. So our body is holding all of this, harboring all of this energy from the past that hasn't been released. So when we're just present or compassionate with our clients, or how he holds space for us, somebody will just start bubbling, like that person that's like, oh, I don't have anger. I'm like so peaceful all the time. Suddenly they're in presence and they're like, I don't know why, but my whole body's shaking, and they're like literally shaking. And that's when he'll work with someone. And the next thing you know, they're like in a past life. Like, I mean, the things I've seen are extraordinary, so mysterious, but then it unleashes from the body rather than trying to navigate that like from the mind. No, let's look for your anger. Let's find it. Let's dig for it. It'll arise on its own accord.
So some of the anger can actually be just stored cellularly in us from, we don't know, some deep unconscious places, past lives, things like that. So if I have it, everybody's got it. It's really,
Yeah, and I would say we don't even need to look into past lives, because we all have the childhood experience. I'd say 99.9% of us, where we were told to hush the anger, calm down, don't show that, don't let anyone see that. So of course, yeah, where can it go other than store in the body until we release it?
Yeah. Speaking of the body, what is your body feeling is most urgent around what needs our attention as a global community right now?
Oh God, it's a beautiful question. I would say that anything we're feeling in the present moment, and right now in our culture globally, it's anxiety and depression. I read a statistic, World Health Organization said anxiety and depression are going to be the #1 disease state in the world by 2030. And it doesn't have to be that way. So I would say whatever emotion is present, what most of us are doing is going into the mind, like we're overthinking, we're blaming that person for triggering us. And really that person's just like a doorbell. And it's like, they're just ringing the doorbell. They're helping us, instead of point to them, use that trigger as a treasure to come back into ourselves and sit with in our physical body, right? Name the feeling and then locate it in the body, whatever we're feeling. So anxiety is a big one. I'd say, like, I felt anxious this morning. Yesterday, I felt blissful when I woke up. The day before, I felt a little anger. Like, it changes all the time, and it's not personal. There's a global frequency, a global energy. There's the trance of negativity running through our culture, which, whether we're aware of it or not, we're constantly picking it up. And so there's a beautiful way to just be aware of it and come into the body so that it can just come in and come out, and then it doesn't grip or hold us. So a beautiful way to do that is just ask, what do I feel right now? Where do I feel it in my body? And then breathe into it and allow it to be there. And if anyone is struggling with anxiety or depression, especially who's watching right now, first of all, I just want to say to you, I feel you, because I've been there. And I believe that many of us who are here on our planet to be iconic leaders, or to come out and really share our messages, our anxiety or depression or any of the really hard emotions are like these rites of passage. And they're an opportunity for us to really master being with those emotions so that we can help our future clients, students, audiences to move through the inevitable influx of anxiety and depression that's taking place globally.
Yeah, well, I just want to acknowledge having been witness to your process and your evolution and your birth, and watching you walk in through those parts of yourself, and the way you've been and emerged is just so inspiring and amazing. So it's just an acknowledgement and presencing what you just said, is that you are the real deal.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. In hindsight, those were like the best moments, like on my knees praying for death, like really.
Tell us why right now. That's great.
I mean, genuinely, I didn't want to be on this planet. It was too painful. I was in too much pain. And when I look back, it was finding my way, no matter how long it took and no matter how humble I had to become, in order to feel and reveal that the imperfections, the flaws, finding my way through that just got me on the planet. You guys saw me before. I mean, 10 years ago, I was floating in the clouds, like, la, 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 love and light. And so the pain was like being like sidekicked from spirit and saying, sweetheart, get your feet on the ground. And it really taught me and humbled me. It taught me compassion. I can sit with anyone today and see them. I don't care what story they tell me. I don't care what they've done. I know the human experience, you know, and so it's just so beautiful. It's given me a direct connection to my human family, not from here, but from like a genuine feeling in my body of that compassion.
Yeah.
Chills.
Yeah, it's true. I was just remembering how often you were running off to Mendocino and the transformation. And then two things that you said that were so key. One thing was it's not personal, to just be able to allow. So like, I'm not the feelings, I'm the sky, the feelings are the weather. So it can kind of just move through. And then there was something else you said that was like, I don't know what the word you used. It was like kind of like the essence of it was, this is the portal. Like this is
the rite of passage.
The rite of passage.
Yeah.
And it had me thinking, I haven't often shared this publicly, but it felt like the right moment. And I may have shared it with you and you know, but there was a time when I was coming off of antidepressants and it was so hard. And I went to Michael Beckwith, like it was like 11 o'clock at night and I'm like bursting into tears and saying, like I can't stop crying. I've been sitting on the couch crying for 4 months. And he, you know, said, well, can you go back on a small dose? And I had actually just had a session with Jason, who completely cleared the energy of that pharmaceutical out of my system. And I was like, no, I can't go back on it. And he just said to me, this is speaking to the rite of passage. He said, okay, then you get to walk in the darkness until you get to walk in the light. And then you will have earned that right to stand in the light. And he just said it to me in such a concise way. He was just about to go off and record something at like 11 o'clock at night. And it was like, he just said that. And I was like, okay.
Oh, thank you so much. I have chills from head to toe right now. That is, can you say that one more time? So you're walking in the dark until you walk in the light?
Yeah, this is how you get to earn walking in the light. You walk in the dark until you get to the light. And the way he said it, I just was all of a sudden willing, because I was really like, I know these tears aren't current, but I can't stop them. You know, they weren't current, but I couldn't stop crying and I couldn't get off the couch. And when he said that, I was just like, all right.
I love what you're saying. And this is what I've learned from Leonard Jacobson. Like our emotions, like you said, they're from the past. They need to complete themselves. So oftentimes it's like those emotions from the past that we're all carrying, they just have to complete their journey through us. But if the mind gets involved, it starts to create a story. It's looking for the reason in the current context of why I'm feeling this way. And oftentimes it has nothing to do with the person in front of you, nothing to do with the current situation. The past is just trying to complete itself. That's it. So
why is it critical that the past complete itself?
Oh God, so we can actually see through the eyes that your gorgeous son sees through?
Yeah.
So we can see life as it really is? So we can move based on that like evolutionary impulse rather than protection and hiding and comparing? I mean, it's like, imagine what it's like to live life as a baby it was untouched. And it's just seeing like with fresh eyes and is in 100% trust of what is. Imagine us, all of us gathering around the globe in this series right now, living with that. I hold that for all of us, living in that level of trust right here, right now, raising the frequency of our planet and allowing the future generations to see that life only gets better.
Yeah. You know, there's so much we've been talking about, like the issues that our world is facing, between the environment, you know, around gender equality, around racism, like all of these places that need our attention. And as you were speaking, I was just imagining, like, are we really meeting these things? Are we meeting them from a place of like feeling that sense of urgency, but then like we have to fix it and there's like the woundedness and this sense of self-protection? Or is it like, what if we were able to come to the table with that same sense of urgency, but clear and present and alive? Just kind of like you said, you know, we're being greeted with this little baby every morning. Doesn't matter what time, it could be 1:30 in the morning or 5:30 in the morning, and we just look at him and he says, come on, buddy, it's 1:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
You just,
I feel like, as to Michael's statement and what Leonard speaks to, is that we're only an authentic expression of compassion, of presence, if we have been willing to experience the totality of the human experience of beingness. And that includes walking through the dark, walking through a denser, shadowy aspect of self. You know, so it's not something I think that we can just click into unless we have traversed the full wheel of expression.
absolutely.
But we can move in that direction. And do you feel, I mean, do you feel these are the major issues that are facing really either our rebirth or our extinction? And that is of course, environmental, the socioeconomic chasm, disparity, and just the essence of separation through racism in all of these ways. So, yes, how can you relate to that with perhaps your work, your diamond process? How can somebody look at those issues that are essential for us to move through it themselves, and then harness the power of transformation through perhaps your process?
Yeah, I mean, I think it really all comes down to presence. Like, it all comes down to the question, the statement I always, or the affirmation or the declaration I set for myself every morning is, my intention is to embody the deepest level of presence available to me. So whatever that means, like, can I really be here with you right now? Can I, each moment, as much of the time as possible? And from that place, right action follows. From that place, I'm not carrying the past forward and all those traumas, but I'm actually here in the present moment, able to respond in the most loving way and see those I once felt separated from through the eyes of love, connection, oneness, or even financial, right? Like, the past, or all the stories that our society says about money and there not being enough, even though we live in a country where there is, like, the poorest person is the wealthiest person in most countries. It really is about feeling the abundance of now when we're present. Like, there's more than enough when we're present. All needs are met when we're present. There's nothing lacking when we're present. And then from that place, it just infiltrates, like, the choice of who we vote for, what we spend our dollar or invest our dollars on, how we treat each other, how we see the person who has different color skin or a different age or a different look or whatever. It really is, I think, the biggest movement that we're all called to at this time is an inner revolution, which has to do with putting presence first, which ultimately means, what's in the way of that? What's in the way of seeing through the eyes of what your son sees? And so that's really just being with, migrating over and over again from the thinking mind into sensation, into feeling, really being with what is, and being willing to be wildly expressed in a world that is very tame and very, like, boxy.
Yeah. Is there like I don't like to minimize it into like 3 steps, but for those that haven't had a continual practice of accessing their presence, how, obviously move from the mind, you were saying, but are there 3 tangible things that somebody could do and start as they move into their power, personal power and leadership?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first preliminary step is to recognize that we're functioning in 2 realities simultaneously. One is the lifeline, which is the present moment. It's like whatever is happening right now. And this is our lifeline. This is where we breathe. This is where we feel our bodies. This is where I can show you anything. Like, these things really exist in the present moment. That's the lifeline. And then there's the timeline. And so we're existing on both simultaneously. And the timeline is the story, who I was as a child, where I'm going in the future. In the timeline or storyline, there isn't much relevance in the present moment. It's like just constantly creating in the future, which is not a problem. It's a story. It's an epic story that we get. Even becoming an iconic leader is, in some sense, a story, a beautiful story, a heroic story, a way that we get to take that timeline, take that divine energy and feed it into this dimension, into the 3D. So first, just knowing that we are both, we're living in both. We are, divine and we're human. Once that's clear, just to recognize, okay, over and over again, how can I come home into the present moment? And the easiest way, if you want 3 steps, is to first of all, ask yourself in this moment, what do you really feel? Like, we already went through this, but it's like, what do I feel right now? I do this first thing in the morning. What do I feel right now? You know what? I'll give you 3 different steps. These are called the 3 Bs, and it's the best meditation. I use it 20 times a day. Just 2 minutes every couple hours or every hour is fantastic to come back home to the present moment and weave the present moment into our story. Like, become grounded in presence rather than lost eternally in the story. So the 3 Bs, this meditation is, number 1, breath. Instantly come to the breath. We hear this constantly, but how often do we do it? Just to stop and take a breath. Second is to feel into our body. So it's body awareness. Number 1, I'm breathing. So simple. My body is breathing. And the ego hates this because it's so simple and it has no value. Like, what am I going to get from this? This is too.
Yeah.
So just being aware that the timeline is trying to, like, yeah, it's like the timeline's like tsunami, like trying to take over. It's okay. Just as an experiment for a week, try this Shine Time meditation. 1, when you're working or wake up or whenever, stop for a moment, or before you get out of your car to go to a meeting, stop in the car for a moment. Remember these 3 Bs. Number 1, breath. Take a breath. Take a few breaths. So simple. My body is breathing. Breathe slowly, breathe deeply. Number 2, body awareness. What is my physical body feeling right now? Ooh, I feel a little constriction here. Feeling my heart really excited and alive. Feeling some energy in the back of my head. So there's no judgment. It's just radical openness, acceptance, awareness of what the body's communicating. And before we get into the 3rd B, the reason the body awareness is so important is because when we're present with the body, which is like a living, breathing entity, it relaxes. Cortisol levels go down. We're mammals, so the body's like hungry for love and attention. When we are always thinking, the body is starving and it will try to communicate through panic. And so we'll medicate ourselves to take these drugs to get rid of that. But then we never resolve the fact that the body really needs, like, we're really being called to an embodiment, like to really embody, be here physically, and be in touch with our intuition, which is communicated through the body. The 3rd B is brow center. If you are overthinking at any time, this is so helpful. So I'm breathing, number 1. Number 2, I'm aware of my body, body awareness, letting my body know I'm here, I'm not leaving, I'm present with you. The 3rd is brow center, and this is very helpful because it helps us to soften all the thinking and just come into a still focus, or in yoga it's called a drishti, and just literally breathe. Just turn the gaze upward, or if that hurts the eyes in any way, just focus on the bridge of the nose. So I'm just breathing, present with my body, and I'm focusing my gaze towards the brow center. And for 2 minutes, it's like washing the mind. It's like the way we brush our teeth every day. We're just washing the soul, washing the mind. And then from that place, opening our eyes and walking and becoming, it's a lot easier to be present from there. So again and again, coming back to the 3 Bs, I'd say practice that for a week, a few times a day, and just notice as an experiment what happens.
To be or not to be.
To be, to be, or to breathe or not to breathe. Like most of us are like walking around.
Isn't that funny? Anytime I tell someone to breathe, I say breathe. They go, breathe in.
Or they'll go, yeah.
No, it's really funny.
But,
Often the exhale.
I'm fascinated by the most basic element of our humanity is so foreign to the masses. It's amazing. The paradox of beingness being played out in every way, shape, and form. It's like, yeah, it's amazing. The most simple thing that we do is the key that unlocks it all.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Having been witness to your journey that you were sharing a little bit, like the resistance to be planet side, earth side, and all the density that you got to move through, and also watching you and how you you really just let yourself be expressed. And at a time when less people were doing it on YouTube, you started this thing and you just kind of started putting it out there, putting the parts that, you know, just those parts, and it's grown and it's been years. But share a little bit about that journey, about what it took, what it took to begin and what it's taken to sustain.
Yeah.
And also personally, I really want to know how you continue to show up with so much realness and vulnerability. I mean, I just love your videos. I am in awe of you. And look at that smile. You just keep showing up with that smile. And I'm like, girl, this consistency is amazing.
Oh, thank you. You know, I want to say to anyone out there, like, start a YouTube channel, make videos, put yourself out there. For me, the reason I started the YouTube channel is because I had been learning from so many pioneers and my life was changing and I literally couldn't hold it back. It's like, you know, when your baby cries, you have to feed him, right? Like you just have to. And so when you have something to give, we're literally designed to give it. And what hurts isn't going out there giving it and getting criticism. What hurts is not giving it. So for me, it was just, I have to share what's on my heart. I have to share what's working in case it helps one person, because I was in so much pain that I was like, God, this has helped me so much. And it wasn't common knowledge at that time. So that I would just say, what helps me to keep going with it is just keep digging deep inside. Like I haven't even touched like the tip of the iceberg in terms of human.
Right? Don't dig too deep where it's never good enough to put it out there.
Oh, right. No. Exactly. I would say this is how like the easiest way to share for me. Like today I'll be making a live stream because I was in the market yesterday and the woman was so freaked out. She was so triggered by a customer who had just come in. And I just wanted to say to her, and it wasn't the right place, but explain to her like why she's getting triggered and like help her go all the way back in time. Like, this is a blessing, like, congratulations, use this. It's not that person. Like, who was treating you like this as a kid? Like, so now I get to go.
If someone was there to video that would have been cool. Like Veronica on the street coaching
without permission.
Yeah, coaching. Yeah, that's a cool title.
That's a good idea.
Without permission. I like that.
Yeah, I love that. Like Buddha at the gas pump, like it's like on the street coaching.
Yeah, it's like wise.
Yeah, so I mean, it's like, I feel like when you're out there living your life fully, meaning you're living in your joy, you're doing what you truly want to do. You know, all the people who have been interviewed, or not interviewed, but they were dying, like the messages, the regrets of the dying, the number one thing is they wish they would have lived their life, like what they really wanted to live. When we're really living our lives and going out there and just experiencing what we really want to experience, we're going to bump up against learning and growth and amazing ahas. And then to share that is really powerful. And to keep, when I was saying about going deep, it's like to keep going deep, to keep processing it. So it's not coming from mind, it's coming from genuine experience. Like I love testing things. I love exploring, like, does this actually work? And then sharing from that place. And what keeps me going is, I think of the best advice I ever got from someone extremely successful in the three-dimensional world is, he said, Vero, focus on the fans. Focus on the fans. Focus on the people who love what you're doing. Like literally, don't even look at the criticisms unless it's coming from somebody who genuinely is giving you feedback, and then take it with a grain of salt. But focus on the people who are really hungry for what you're here to give. And guaranteed, if those of you watching have a call to give something, there's somebody who really, really needs it. My yoga teacher calls it the narcissism of self-doubt, when we don't actually give what we're here to give. I love that. I think that's so profound. Yeah, that it's equally narcissistic to say, who am I to do this, as it is to say, I'm the best in the world. You know, like they're equal, they're the same thing.
Yeah, it's true.
Do you remember your first video?
Yeah. It was called Beauty Cast from a Shadow. I had no idea what I was doing. Obviously didn't know keywords. Who the heck knows what that title even means? I was sitting.
It's a great title.
I was sitting in awe of a plant casting a shadow on the wall. I kid you not, this is my first video. It's still on YouTube. I was in awe of like the shadow cast on the wall and how the shadow looked so real because it was the exact texture. It looked exactly like the plant, but it was not real. So now I was like, oh my God, our shadows aren't real. All these ideas aren't. And I just was reflecting and I had to share it.
Gotta put it on the camera.
Yeah. And I was shocked that I could actually, there was this thing called YouTube where I could post that, you know, and then someone watched it and then someone commented and I was like, what?
You're sharing that with me, like, who's watching?
Yeah.
Find it.
And by the way, those of you who want to make videos, but you're so scared, so you don't want, you know, the best tip I would say is do it anonymously at first. Don't tell anyone. Don't tell your friends. Don't tell your community. Just do it for your own self-expression under the, you know, in the safety of your own, just so you're not editing yourself. And when you're ready, your voice will be refined and more clear as you keep doing it. And then when you feel ready, just blast it out and let everyone you know, yeah, let everyone know that you're sharing your voice.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah, so your work, and I know that you and your partner Jason are focusing primarily on training coaches.
Yes.
Can you speak into why you felt that avenue was so important, why and what you contribute in that arena, and just what inspired you to choose that path?
Yeah, great question. In coaching clients, I kept getting the question, I want to be a coach. Can you train me how to be a coach? Because I want to coach the way you coach. And I kept hearing it. And finally, a woman named Christine asked, and it was like the final straw. And I was like, I'm going to create it just for you. And so that's how it started 5 years ago. And then it just grew and snowballed. And it's a really unique approach. The reason I'm so passionate about it, and then my husband Jason came on board as well, because he's been living this parallel life on the shamanic path, and the work is so similar, is because to be a transformational coach, it's really about working with the shadow. It's really about embodiment. It's really about presence. And so this unique process called the diamond process, which is in a book format, it's a very powerful way to hold clients because they're here and they want to get here, but what's in the way? And so the diamond process really helps us to use every obstacle that's in the way as stepping stones rather than blocks. And it's the reason I'm really passionate about it, by the way, is because I believe that all of us are needed at this time, even though it's like an iconic leader can kind of single someone out like an iconic leader, but imagine a whole group of iconic leaders around the world standing and delivering this work to unique audiences, and the ripple that sends out of light onto our planet, those of us like really standing in what we're here to do. So as coaches, we really get to stand in a place of embodiment and guidance and authority, you know, heart-centered authority, so we can help shift our worlds together.
I imagine it's really rewarding, huh?
Oh, it is. There's a woman in our training right now, and I think I maybe even shared this with you because she moves me so much, but she said we get a lot of people in midlife or later years who are just like ready to start what they really want to do. And she said, I want to die empty. I can't hold this gift anymore. And she's in a very religious background, and she has all this truth that she wants to share, and she's finally getting the courage to share. I think of her and I cry because she's so beautiful, and I can only imagine the community that's waiting for her specifically, because we all have a very specific frequency, story, audience that's waiting for us based on our authenticity. And you know, the religious community that's, you know, maybe hiding and they have their own truth, but they don't want to offend their families or whatnot. She's going to be a powerful voice for them. So it's very rewarding. Yeah.
Beautiful. What would you say, Veronica, to anyone who may be feeling that call, like there's gifts inside of me. I've been putting them on the back burner to pay the bills, to raise the kids, to go to work, to all the things. And feeling like there just might not be enough bandwidth.
Such a good question. That's a very common thing we get. First of all, I know you've heard this 1,000 times, but now is the time. And the easiest way to go and do that is take a really honest assessment of what you can release from your plate. And believe me, we actually go through this in the first module of our coach training program, because it's really about first creating the space. And it takes courage, because it really means saying no. It really means the people who have had these expectations on you for a long time having to put, or choosing to put up boundaries, at least for a period of time, in order to build this thing that's been so wanting to come through you. So I would say we all have the same amount of hours in a day, right? How is Oprah Winfrey doing everything she's doing with, you know, how do we take what we're really here to, I'd say the first step is to clear, make space, and get very honest about what you don't want to do, that you don't have to do, and you can release it, at least for a period of time, while you start to slowly and steadily build what you're here to build. And I will say it again, now is the time. And you know, if you're watching this, like, and I will say, when you take that first step, let's say you just clear something little, it's not something big, like, I'm going to hire a housekeeper, or I'm going to do a trade with a friend to take care of my kids for 3 hours while, you know, I maybe coach her, or whatever the trade is, to give you that free time to do your work for those 3 hours a week. That's a powerful step. 3 hours a week, or even an hour a week, if that's what you're starting with. And then providence sets in, because action creates momentum, and then spirit can meet us at the point of action. But if we stay in the story, I can't, it never actually happens. So I'd say start small, and you know, when you focus and applaud yourself for the courage it takes to make that change and move forward, and then slowly and steadily keep growing. Slow and steady is the best advice I've ever gotten in my life. To just look at the long term and know that slow and steady is sustainable and really powerful in the end.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, it really does come down to courage when we're talking about moving into another circumference of being, where, like you said, you know, you're here and you want to get here. The only thing that's going to get you here is really courage. Yeah. So can you speak to a moment besides your first plant video, you know, a real moment anytime in your life where you knew the only way to get there was going to be taking a really big, courageous leap? Mm-hmm. And what was it like for you, and how did you make that leap?
Great question. I was working 3 jobs. I had left a very wealthy lifestyle in order to heal, and I came out of the redwoods like, what do I do now to make money on this planet? So I took 3 jobs, and I was just trying to make ends meet, and I was working with really intense people, very demanding. I had no time for myself. I was absolutely had zero self-care. I was depleted. I was overwhelmed. I was exhausted. I was mood swings all over the place. And I realized, and I had already started my YouTube channel, and I had this insight, I've got to make a change. Like, I have to make a change. And so I made this choice to create my first online product, a 7-week course. And I gave myself, I think it was 60 days or 90 days, like, where I was going to quit those 2 jobs, which was a massive leap because I didn't have income from other places. And I had this plan to just take the leap and offer the course. And I literally wrote my goodbye letter to those 2 jobs. I set the exact date, and I took a weekend, turned off all technology, shut everything down. And I said, V, what's in your heart? What do you really want to share with the world? And that's actually where the diamond process started. And I put those 7 powerful weeks in place. And I will tell you, it was the most rewarding thing, and it was freaking terrifying. But I'll tell you, when the first person paid, and by the way, the YouTube channel, that's where basically all my clients come from, and students. When I got that first PayPal and someone was paying me for the first time for like a course that I had created, I was like, oh my God, like the joy that came from that. And I look back, I was charging like $297 or like $197 early bird. Like it was nothing, and it was everything. So, I mean, I really resonate. Like I needed the 90 days and to get really systematic and da, 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 da. But once you set the date, the doubt's going to kick in, but there has to be 100%. This is it. This is my word. And word, action, and thought, when it's in alignment, creates self-trust. So I definitely second guessed it, but I stayed with the choice, and it was the best choice I ever made.
Yes.
Yay. We're
Yes.
so glad
Yes.
you did.
Yes.
Oh,
Those defining moments, create momentum that take us to places we couldn't have possibly envisioned for ourselves, and having been witness to that evolution for yourself is just, it's life affirming. It's totally life affirming.
Yeah. And the final thing I want to say, I love what you're saying, is like when you make a choice from light, like excitement, like what lifts you, I swear when I look back, every choice I've ever made, even though it wasn't logical, but my light was like so excited in that direction, that has paid off the most.
Yes.
That first video on YouTube, I was so excited, but there was no logic behind it. Signing up for my master's program in spiritual psychology, no logic, huge investment. It like literally changed the trajectory of my entire life.
Yes.
So trust those impulses where your light is leading you, and watch the logic as it tries to eclipse that, and just like blow it away and ride it forward.
Wow.
Thank you, darling.
I love you guys so much, and all of you listening, I'm so honored and grateful. If you're still here with us, like just so touched that you're here, and you've got a powerful mission, and we're all backing you and bringing it forward into this world.
Yeah, it's really arm in arm. It's this Australian, like anonymous Australian Aborigines quote that is, like, if you are coming to save me, save your breath. But if you're coming because our survival is linked, then come, let's do this together.
Ooh.
Yeah, always. I totally paraphrased it, but it's just like that is really where we are. And so thank you for just showing up as authentically as you show up, with all your light, all your wisdom, all your love. And I know you have a gift for our beautiful people here. What is that?
Gift.
I do, and I'm really excited about this, because the thing we often struggle with is clarity. Well, I know I have something here to share, but I don't know what it is. I don't have the clarity. So my husband Jason and I created this powerful masterclass called the 5 Degrees of Clarity. It is a workshop, really. You're going to want to have a journal and a pen or a notebook and just get ready to go deep inside of yourself. The purpose of it is to help you get crystal clarity on what you truly want and how you can get it instantly. And I do mean instantly, and it'll make sense once you're in the workshop.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you so much, everyone. Make sure to grab that. That'll also take you into Veronica and Jason's fold of life and work, and you get to follow them. And we're so grateful that you spend your time with us, and hopefully you are being inspired to ignite and harness that fire. Yes. And we're just sending love to all of you.
Thank you.
Oh.
Thank you.